Here's a fact that might surprise you. Many retirees will finish their retirement years with more money than they started with. Not because they hit it big in the markets, but because they were afraid to spend what they had worked so hard to save. Now, if you followed me for a while, you know I've spent the last 25 years as a CPA and retirement planner helping people retire with clarity and confidence. And one of my biggest passions is helping people not just preserve wealth, but enjoy it. That's exactly what today's video is about. I'm going to share some surprising data, some client stories, and a few strategies that can help you spend with confidence in retirement. So stay with me until the end, because that's where everything ties together into a clear framework you can actually use in your own retirement. When people retire, the paycheck stops. That part isn't a surprise, but here's what is. Most retirees do not come close to spending what their portfolio could support. Instead, their account stays level or even grows. There's actually a name for this, the consumption gap. It's the difference between what your savings could support and what you actually spend. And in study after study, retirees consistently underspend. For example, in a 2018 study published in the Journal of Financial Planning, researchers found that retirees, even during poor market periods like 2000 to 2008, tended to see their account balances grow rather than shrink. And in a well-known study by David Blanchett of Morningstar, he found that real retiree spending declines over time, rather than increasing steady with inflation, which widens the consumption gap even further. Now, when I say wealthy, I don't mean billionaires. In that 2018 study, it was defined as households with around $700,000 or more in savings. That's a lot, but it's not unusual for many of you watching. So the question becomes, why don't people spend? Part of it's psychological. Many of you built wealth by delaying gratification. You spent decades saying, not now, later. But when retirement comes and you're in the later, yet the habit of saving is so ingrained that spending feels wrong. The other reason is uncertainty. Nobody knows how long they'll live. Costs could rise dramatically, markets could drop at the wrong time. That mix of unknowns makes people freeze up. Michael Kitces, one of the most well-known voices in financial planning, has shown through historical market research that retirees withdrawing 4% annually from a balanced 60-40 portfolio rarely end with less than what they started with. In fact, most scenarios dating back to 1870, retirees finished with double or more of their starting wealth. Let me give you an example. I once worked with a couple who had about $7 million saved, plus pensions that covered all of their living expenses. They were in their mid-70s, and when I asked if there was anything they'd been putting off, they said, well, maybe we'd like to replace the front door. A front door. I told them you could buy 100 front doors and still be fine. But that fear of running out kept them from enjoying their money. Here's another quick story. A client of mine wanted to take her dream trip to Italy. Her pension and Social Security covered nearly everything. She had over $3 million invested, but she told me, I don't think I can afford it. I reminded her, this is exactly what your money is for. You've already won the retirement game. You can afford the trip. And the next year she went. Do you know what she did when she came back? She said it was the best money I've ever spent. That's the challenge. Most people don't realize what they can afford. And that's why having a strategy matters. One of the best strategies is what I call a dynamic income strategy. Instead of relying on gut feelings or on a rigid rule like, say, the old 4% rule, we use data. We stress test a portfolio against history and we build in some guardrails. That means you can spend more in good years, and if markets turn bad, you make small adjustments. This approach almost always allows for higher spending with more confidence than a one-size-fits-all rule. Kitces' research highlights this as well. He shows that guardrail-based systems can increase spending by 10 to 20% over retirement compared to rigid withdrawal rules, while still protecting against downside risk. Another tool that helps is a bucket strategy. This means setting aside short-term spending money in safer investments. That way you never have to sell stocks, mutual funds, or ETFs in a down market just to cover your living expenses. For example, you might keep 2 to 3 years of spending needs in cash or short-term bonds. Then your next bucket, 5 to 10 years of spending, sits in more balanced, conservative investments, and the rest stays invested for long-term growth. Just knowing you have that first bucket gives many people the freedom to spend more comfortably. It takes the fear out of volatility. Now let's talk about underspending. Underspending has consequences. It means fewer trips with the grandkids. It means putting off that dream vacation. It means carrying money anxiety with you that you don't need to carry. And the tragedy is most people could have spent more safely. According to a 2022 study from BlackRock, retirees across income levels consistently withdrew less than half of what sustainable withdrawal models suggested they could. In other words, they left joy on the table. In fact, in many historical scenarios, retirees who followed a moderate withdrawal strategy ended up not only preserving their wealth, but growing it. One large study showed that retirees following a 4% withdrawal rule often ended up retirement with double or even triple the amount they started with. And just think about that. You spend 30 years in retirement carefully pinching pennies only to leave behind a fortune you never touched. If leaving a large inheritance is your goal, that's wonderful. But if your goal is to travel, to enjoy life, to create more memories, and underspending is a problem. So how do you fix it? The first step is clarity. You need to know what your portfolio can realistically support. That means running stress tests, looking at different scenarios, and seeing how your plan holds up under pressure. The second step is purpose. Money without purpose creates anxiety. Money with purpose creates confidence. Decide what matters most to you. Family experiences, travel, legacy, philanthropy, comfort. Whatever it is, write it down. The third step is structure. Have a dynamic withdrawal strategy with clear guardrails. Have buckets that give you emotional freedom, and have regular reviews so your plan stays on track. Let me add one more perspective that often gets overlooked: taxes. How you withdraw money matters as much as how much money you withdraw. Pulling from the wrong account at the wrong time can increase your tax bill unnecessarily. For example, tapping into a large IRA too early could push you into a higher tax bracket, while a better strategy might be to blend withdrawals from taxable accounts, IRAs, and Roths. Smart sequencing, sometimes called tax diversification, can mean tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars more over retirement. And when you keep more of what you saved, that gives you more freedom to spend with confidence. Here's another key point: your retirement isn't static. The way you spend at 65 is not the same way you'll spend at 85. In the early go-go years, travel, dining, and experiences are often higher. In the middle, slow-go years, spending levels off. In later, healthcare often takes a larger share. David Blanchett's research on the retirement spending smile shows that spending naturally decreases in inflation-adjusted terms over time, then ticks up again in later years due to healthcare. Understanding this natural spending curve helps you design a plan that allows more joy in the early years without jeopardizing the later years. If you plan as though every year will look exactly the same, you may spend far less than you could safely enjoy in those precious early years. And let's talk more about inflation for a moment. Yes, costs rise over time and inflation can feel like a great unknown, but here's the nuance. Retirees don't actually experience inflation the same way workers do. For many, spending naturally declines in later years, which can offset some of inflation's impact. This is another reason why a dynamic plan, rather than a rigid one, works better. It gives you the flexibility to adapt without overreacting. Finally, legacy planning. For many retirees, the tension is between wanting to spend now and wanting to leave money for family or charity. Now, the key is balance. You can create a strategy that gives you the freedom to enjoy your money while also setting aside what you want to leave behind. This might mean creating a trust, designating charitable gifts, or setting up beneficiary accounts. When you have clarity on both goals, spending and legacy, you can pursue both with confidence. Now, let me leave you with this. You've worked hard your whole life. You've saved responsibility. Now it's time to give yourself permission to spend with confidence. Because retirement isn't just about not running out of money, it's about living the life you imagined. Too many retirees look back with regret, not because they ran out of money, but because they never gave themselves permission to fully enjoy it. So here's my encouragement to you. Don't wait, don't put off the trip, the family gatherings, the memory-making experiences until someday. You've done the hard work, you've saved, you've been disciplined. Now is the time to put that money to work what truly matters to you. If leaving a legacy is your goal, you can do that and still create a meaningful experience today. But if your only legacy is money sitting untouched in an account, well, I've never met anyone who said that's their fondest memory was watching their balance sheet grow. The real legacy is the stories, the adventures, the time spent with people you love. So let me leave you with a challenge. Take a fresh look at your retirement plan and ask yourself, will I have enough? But also, am I allowing myself to enjoy what I've worked for? And if you'd like some help figuring that out, how much you can safely spend, how to structure your withdrawals, how to balance taxes, legacy, and lifestyle, I'd encourage you to schedule a free retirement readiness call. I'll put a link below, because retirement isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving and about giving yourself permission to spend without confidence and live without regret.